going through your mind, so you can't even prepare a dinner efficiently, and you come here and expect to find the truth that's going to set you free. You're going to have to, all of you, you're going to have to become aware that you're going to have to start way, way back. How many times have we talked about blabbermouthery? How many blabbermouths in the room? How many mental blabbermouths? You don't hear. You don't hear. And I'll tell you why you don't hear. Because you don't want to. You don't want anything to shake you, cause you to quiver any more than you already are. You want, listen to this, you want your familiar earthquakes inside. You know what to do about them. If your wife gets mad, that's an earthquake to you, and you know what to do about that. You just get mad in return. You know what to do. You always know what to do. In other words, you always know what to do to destroy yourself. In this class, we're trying to teach you. We're trying to get you out of that rut of reacting in the same familiar ways, because they're the only ways you presently know and the only ways you want to know, because they don't require any effort at all. A wheel rolling down in a rut doesn't require any effort to get out of it. It's in the rut. It's fixed. It just stays there. We're telling you to make an effort to stand outside of yourself, pull that wheel of your mind out of the rut, so as to give yourself a new shock. You get shocked, you know, when you blow up at your wife, when you blow up at the policeman. You have an old familiar shock there. We're trying to give you an unfamiliar one that will show you the difference between reacting mechanically, the ordinary way, the way you always do, and reacting with an effort to try to see what is going on and making an effort, a conscious effort as much as you can at the start, to put an end to the usual way you react when someone speaks to you harshly, when you don't get what you want. Write down a sentence, please, if you have paper and pencil and like to write things down. Either way is good. Some of you may like to listen purely, others may like to write things down. Every man, woman to his own choice. I am the slave of anything I don't understand. I am the slave of anything I don't understand. Did you ever just sit back quietly and think about that for a minute? Or haven't you ever investigated your life, your inner nature, your mind, your life here on earth, simply to see the fact of that you are enslaved, captured, pained by anything you don't understand? What don't you understand? How about your wife? How about your husband? How about your life as a whole? What are you doing here on earth? What am I doing here? Society tells me what life is all about, and I conform to it, so up to a certain point, but I don't really understand it. If I understood it, I'd be happy with it. I don't understand my employment. I don't understand how I should behave toward this person who offended me. I don't jump on you, and to get my rights and to get what I want is the way to feel good. It's the way to feel secure. It's the way to advance and be successful in this highly competitive world. It's the way to protect myself from bad people. It's the way to be accepted by other people, because if I get successful, they'll admire me. If I'm a respectable citizen of the community, they'll admire me, they'll look up to me, they'll invite me to join their men's club or their women's club. They'll invite me to their home for parties, and I'll be interacting with society as a whole, a part of it, accepted. That's what I want. I want to be accepted. All right. I have taken all these ways of behaving toward myself and toward everything exterior. I have taken them as the good, right, proper way to go through life. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my hell. Because I'm in contradiction. Because when I stamp on you to get the promotion and I actually have my name on the door down at that factory, or I get that woman by tricking that woman, once I get them, what have I got? Deep down inside, I know I don't have anything real, but I can't face that fact. I'm trapped. And we'll come to that a little later. I have accepted all the values of society, of my parents, of the organized religion, as the way to live and be a good human being, a respectable human being, a good citizen, a good religious person. Maybe God will even take me to heaven if I do it right, you know. If I go to church often enough and sing enough hymns and give my money, bribe God, in other words. If I do all these things, then I will be happy. You in this room and you listening to this tape had better slow down, and you had better take a look at your life when you get home, or better yet right now, and you tell me why the plans you have followed for success, the rules you have followed, the ideas you've followed, the feelings you've followed, the hunches you've followed, how come they've led you right into the internal personal mess and hell that every one of you, whether you admit it or not, now live in? How come if you're so right, you're so sick? How come if you know what life is all about, you're so miserable? Don't you lie to me. Don't you sit there and lie to me. You can lie to yourself. Write down another sentence, because we're going to get to a little bit of a solution here. The beginning of the solution that will take you a long, long time. It's a very difficult and yet it's a marvelous journey. Write down the following sentence, please. What are my true feelings about that? Question mark. What are my true feelings about that? Underline the word true. I have given you the way out. The way to start, the way out. Because you see, you've been deceiving yourself all these years. You've been afraid to break out of this trap you're in for fear of what wife or husband or preacher or what you call God might think about you. God will applaud you, if I may put it that way. Truth will applaud you if you begin to break away from this conditioning that has engulfed you. All right. How do I truly feel about that? That being any incident, any success, any failure, any event, any circumstance, any condition that you are now in. I'm asking you to do something that you have never done before, perhaps, which is to start to smash the trap of yourself, and you're the only trap there is. There's no other trap. You are the trap. You think it's society. Of course it's a sick society. You are sick. This is why you're affected by a sick society. If you were healthy, you would not be affected by it in any way at all, because you're on its level. You're going to take any situation in your life, anyone, your friend left you, you're losing your money, you're growing older, your health isn't what it is, and your heart skips a beat, and you worry about that. You have all kinds of worries and all kinds of problems. And you also, incidentally, have certain securities and successes. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Take anything, whatever in your life, any circumstance, your marriage, your fear of growing old, your wish to prove how intelligent you are, whatever. And you're to look very carefully at what is going on inside of you in any particular circumstance, and you're to ask, how do I truly feel about that? Or what is my true feelings toward that? You can phrase it any way you want. The object being for you, for the first time in your life, to start to be honest with yourself. You think this is easy? It is extremely difficult to be honest. So that when you have a certain attitude towards someone you claim that you care for, I want you to look deep inside yourself and see how you truly feel toward this person or this event. And if you do this honestly, you're going to be very disturbed by what you see, because you have lived all your life in phony self-images of being intelligent, of being loving, of being caring for other people, of being a go-getter, of being a very ambitious person who knows what he wants, of already having the answers to life, of knowing where you're going and of what you want. You've had this collection of 1,000 lies that have been picking you up every day and carrying you off to the jailhouse. Every time you tell a lie about these sorts of things, you're enslaved by them, as we said at the beginning. You are beginning to see how you have been dishonest about who you are and what you're doing in life. If you will simply look at yourself and see that you're far more stupid, far more scared, far more befuddled, far more lost, far more hypocritical, far more self-divided. If you begin to see that this is your actual state, and don't protect yourself by ideal images or by hopes of the future, but just see it, you will receive the always reward, the inevitable reward of being honest about the kind of a person you really are, and what you are is a wretch. Smiling all day long because that's what you're supposed to do, pretending that you have great ambitions in life, that you're going somewhere, and you know you're not going anywhere, and as evidence of that, you have headaches, you can't sleep night, and you're afraid of what people can do to you, aren't you? You're afraid of what people can do to you. You're afraid of what circumstances can do to you. Let me interrupt to give you a marvelous message. You don't have to be afraid of anyone at all. You don't have to be afraid of any event at all, including, listen, including your own death. You don't have to be afraid of anything. This isn't a sermon. This isn't religious talk now. This is something which you can prove for yourself if you want it. All right, now let's go on. If you get dreadfully honest with yourself, you will also deliberately put yourself through great internal upheavals, and which will make it get worse, because you thought that things were going to get better. Instead, they're getting worse. You thought coming to this class and watching yourself that after, surely at least 3 classes I'd start to get happier. Maybe 5. Maybe it'll take 5 classes to cure me. You've lived in neurosis for 50 years and 3 classes are going to cure it. Ha! See how dishonest we are in that one little respect? We want to live our life for all these years and then expect something to happen overnight to change it. You don't know what's going on inside of you that prevents you from being honest, from seeing the way you are. And what is preventing it is more wrong, that gets mad when someone says, you know, you're a little bit of a hypocrite. Or you know what? I've seen a lot of weakness in you, and you go around pretending that you're strong and confident, and I meet you in the market somewhere, and you see me out of the corner of your eye, and you start humming a little tune to try to convince me that you're happy. We are born con men, born con women. Have I described your hell a little bit up to this point? Of course I have. And the hell of all your relatives, of all your friends. You don't know anybody who has any... Listen, you don't know anybody who has any sanity at all. All they have is a marvelous script, a marvelous stage performance, by which if you mention religion, they quote the Bible. You mention government, and they mention their favorite politician whose bill is going to change everything. They mention sociology, and they say, well, if we'd increase production of wheat, that would change. No matter what you bring up, they have the answer. Watch their faces when they get through talking, if they ever do. And you'll see a very miserable human being who's trying to do what we've been doing up to this point, which is to try to convince ourselves that all is well, and it doesn't work, does it? All right. We have looked at ourselves. We've been shocked by what we've seen. Now, there's a very important step, and you new people should pay very close attention to this, because this may be your last chance. If you are dead, you won't come back to a second meeting. And you won't know what I just said. If you're totally asleep, if you want to go on living in your sickness, you won't come back to another meeting. That'll be the end of you. You'll go on living in of yourself. I know this. I know that this can happen to any one of you in this room. But for heaven help you, if you go away from here and forget what you've heard. You've had one chance tonight, whether you're new here or whether you're old. Some of you old people are just as bad as you were when you started. You've just collected a little knowledge is all. Don't kid me. If you will come back and get insulted the next meeting, get knocked down at the next meeting, told that you're a liar at the next meeting, and refuse to listen to your friends who will criticize the truth because they hate the truth. If you will listen to the truth, which can begin to grow inside you, so you're not listening to me, I'm telling you the truth, but you can have it for yourself. What do you think this is all about? Not for me, but so you can be your own man, your own woman, wherever you go, because you understand yourself and understand life. By having the courage to say, whatever your age is now, think of your age, all of you, think of your age, whatever it is, 30, 50, 60, whatever. This is as far as I'm going in self-deception, in delusion, in madness. This is as far as I'm going to listening to my sick religious friends. For heaven's sake, look at their faces. Look at their life. Why do they need to convince you that they are right about their religious ways? You look at their tension, you look at their anxiety, and you look at their hatred when you don't believe the way they want you to believe. And then you tell me whether they have the truth of God Almighty in them or not. And if you have the courage to be honest, you'll see that they don't know the truth any more than you do. Great. This is another self-honesty that you and I can begin to work with. Come back here, come back to every class and be knocked around. Submit yourself, not to me personally. Submit yourself to the truth that's in this room, and I know it is, and some of you know it is. Submit yourself to the truth that'll set you free, and it will begin to work on you, and you'll begin to sense it, you'll begin to feel it, and every time you feel the truth with increased force, a brick will fall off your back. The bricks you've been trying to pull off by your own effort, but you knock it off, and while you're there taking that one off, someone puts another one over here. You can't win. You know you can't win because you've never won. You've never won anything up to this point. Here's your chance to understand what it means to win in a new way, so that you don't care whether you get that raise or not. You really don't. You really don't. Because you are not living for this sick world anymore. You may get the raise, you may not. That's not the point. You don't care whether your wife leaves you or not, because you are not tying your false life to her. You're going to be free first and then have a wife. You're going to be free first and then earn a living. You're going to be free first and then do this or that. Then all things become legitimate if you do them. Things are actually legitimate, because they're being done by a person who understands what life is truly all about. You had better make up your mind that you're going to knock off living the way you have up until this point. Oh, unless you love to suffer, which obviously a good number of you do. If you want your pain, I will tell you that you can have them. If you want to go around blaming everyone for your troubles, that's the simplest thing to do, and you're privileged. Church services, take a look at that big cathedral with the stained glass windows and the robes and all that. People actually believe that they are sitting in that room, the organ is playing, everything is marvelous. They actually believe that they are getting a religious feeling in that room. What they're getting is a self-hypnotic feeling given to them by all these exterior things coming into them under the name of God and religion, which they have consented with, because this mechanical religion, this self-dramatizing religion, is the only thing they've ever known. This is why you're not going to get people coming here who are thickly tied to organized religion. For one thing, they think God will strike them dead. And their friends will tell them, don't you know you're being disloyal to this church, that church, this church? God will strike you dead. Remember the importance of studying identification and not identifying. And over the weeks and years, as we continue with these classes, we'll attack it from different viewpoints, and sooner or later you'll say, ha, I see. Not tonight. Questions, comments?
We can trick ourselves into believing that we're actually learning something here a lot of the time too. Is that right?
Yes, because, well, you understand that you are learning something on a certain elementary level when you collect knowledge. Now, you've all collected a lot of knowledge tonight, have you not? You've got a lot of it. Some of them are shocking to you, some very, very fearful to you. But nevertheless, you have collected certain knowledge. Now, don't identify with the knowledge you've collected, or you'll turn into a preacher. You go around, you'll go, look, this is what happens. We come to a few meetings like this, and maybe there is a small, sincere part of us, and we get all excited. Now we're going to save the world. How many of you have had that experience of trying to save the world? Did it want to be saved?
No.
No. We learn to keep our big mouth shut after a while, don't we? Right. I'll tell you when you will begin to be free of your own fears and tensions and anxieties. When you have collected sufficient knowledge and then gone beyond it. When you no longer say, I'm a sincere student because I've been coming to these classes for 2 years. I must be sincere. I've been coming for 2 years. Why do you have to convince yourself of that? When you don't have to convince yourself that you're free, you are. If you have to keep talking about it, telling other people and quoting the Bible, why do you have to do that? You're trying to convince yourself, and you're trying to get a self-image from them. So that they'll say, that's right, you're sure smart. And you'll get a thrill out of them telling you that you're smart. You'll get a thrill. But 2 minutes later, you'll be depressed because you know it's a lie.
In certain areas of my life, and I'm sure there are many other areas that I don't see yet, I'm completely possessed and I can't do anything about it on the level of my own intellect.
No,
No.
no. You've been fighting for years to get above it, and it only gets worse, right?
Yeah, much worse.
This means you're going to have to see that the mind, the ordinary mind that you use for daily tasks, drive your car, cook dinner, that mind cannot free you from your anxiety. But I'll tell you, it's going to take you years to accept this, because it's going to take you years to have the courage to die to your false sense of self, which you don't even know you have. We have a problem, and then underneath that, another problem, deeper into the unconscious, another problem below that, another below that, another. We think we just have surface problems. I will tell you, you have to see through that problem so you can get to that one, so you can get to that one, so you can get to that one, so you clean out that big mess in the cellar, way down in the cellar. And that's what we're doing in this class. And if you, look, have you ever thought of this? Bring up identification again. Have any of you been offended tonight in any way at all? Any offended? Let's see the hand of the offended people. How many of you are telling a lie now? How many of you have been offended by anything? All right. Have you ever thought of not identifying with being offended? Who is being offended? Who are you talking about? You say, I was offended by something you said. Now you tell me who you're talking about. You're talking about an idea that you've identified with that, for example, this meeting should be conducted differently. Or what he said, the man up there said, doesn't agree with what you already believe. You have ideas about what the truth is. How come you're so miserable? How come if you have the answers, you're so miserable? Don't you lie to me. You won't succeed.
If we can deal with a problem now by being conscious, by being consciously here and aware of that matter, we can stop the perpetuation of those problems. That much we can do.
Thinking is the problem. Incorrect thinking is the problem. Right? There's no other problem. I'm telling you. You think your problem is in your wife's shrewish behavior? You think your problem is the cruelty of your husband? You think the problem is you look at inflation and you look at the national debt and you look at the insanity of the people who are trying to correct this and you get afraid? Do you think that's the problem? The problem is that you still love this unlovable world. You want to be a part of it. You want rewards from it. I didn't say you can't go out and earn a living. In fact, you must, because you must learn to be responsible for yourself on the social level. But I'm telling you, if you value that raise, that promotion, that prestige, that power, that authority, if that's what your values are, you still love this sick world, and you will pay the penalty for it. There is a way to live right in this world and not love it, and therefore not be punished by your own wrong love of it. And that's what we're after. How many of you like to be approved by people? Let's see the hand. You like to be approved by people? Why do you want to be approved? You know why? Because you don't know who you are. And you think their approval will tell you who you are. You're such a marvelous friend, such a marvelous boss, a marvelous employee. And you're all lying to each other. Look, someone is going to have to step outside the circle of insanity. There are 50 people in any given block, say, going around the circle, lying to each other, walking mechanically, pretending that they're going somewhere. Someone is going to have to break out of that circle. Why not make it yourself so that you don't suffer from it? I'll tell you, the other 49 people in that circle are not going to step out of it. Your wife, your husband, your children, your parents, they're not going to step out of it. They're very happily engaged in perpetuating their own self-centered misery. You know they're miserable. You know how easily they can get upset, how easily they cry, how easily they get enraged, and you know how they have to keep the mask on all day and all night. And this is what we've been doing up to this point. We're going to step out of the circle, and I'll tell you, when you step out, you're going to have an ounce of courage to do it. Or better yet, if you don't have any courage, do it without courage. Step outside the circle, because your friends are going to be disappointed in you. They're going to ask you, how come you're a little different than you used to be? Why do you go to those meetings? We could go for a long time into that, and we have. I'll tell you, ladies, gentlemen, you're going to die all alone. You ask your wife to hold your hand. She'll put on a proper show after you're dead. Yes, Tom.
It is very interesting what you said one time about how up until this point, negative forces have not had to concern themselves with us in any special way because we've been so asleep, we've been totally under their control.
Yes.
And when we start to try to awaken, this is when their grip starts to really tighten.
Yes, that's good. And you begin to get increasingly frightened. All right, look, here's a slave master. He's got these big brass things on his arm, you know. Think of ancient Rome. The big slave master. He's got the big long whip, and he's beating the slave all day long out in the Colosseum there, you know, something. He's beating the slave. There's no real conflict there. There's just something going on. No battle. What do you mean battle? The boss has got it. The slave master's got it. The brute has got it. He beats the slave. The slave cringes and cowers and prays and pleads. The slave starts to revolt a little bit. The minute the slave, even does such a small thing as change the expression on his face. He's bloody and he's bleeding and he's crouched, but he looks up at the slave master there, and he looks at it with a different light in his face. The minute he does that, the slave master sees it, and the slave master gets scared. Now there's a battle going on, isn't there? There's no battle before. Everything was just one-sided. Increasingly, as we begin to revolt against the slave master of our psychic sleep, of the devil, of the dark forces, of our unconscious compulsions, as we begin to rebel against them, we begin to notice them because they're becoming conscious, which is what it's all about. This is why I tell you, if it doesn't get worse, you're not getting better, because you're still deceiving yourself into thinking that all is well. And you will even get this, you'll even honor and worship and, quote mark, love that slave master who beats you every day. You know why? Because he feeds you every day too. He gives you 3 meals a day, but he beats you. He is giving you some kind of a little reward in order to keep you alive, so he can have the pleasure of beating you. And you fall for it. We're here to learn how to rebel in the right way. Now, what's the right way to rebel? Through knowledge, through consciousness. Those 2 steps at the start. We're collecting knowledge of that we are slaves, and through consciousness, which is not intellect, but above it. But the beginning, we collect knowledge, and we eventually rise above it, so that we're conscious. We become conscious that the slave master is me. The man who is whipping me every day is my own delusions, my own lies, my own misunderstandings of what I'm all about, why I'm here on earth. And I'm here on earth to find truth, not to get rich, not to impress you. The slave master is within. Isn't that marvelous just to learn that tonight? Instead of fighting the boss or fighting society or fighting politicians or fighting the economic system or fighting your mad relatives, you're going to begin to fight in the right way, rebel in the right way, by understanding that if you are sane, that is your sane world, which the mad politicians and the mad economic system can't touch. Nothing can touch sanity. Insanity can't touch a sane man. If you are disturbed by insane people, it's because you're insane. You're on the same level. You're vibrating to that. We're here to become sane. All right, comments, questions? Leland, you had your hand up.
Yes.
Go ahead. Someone else. We'll come back.
It's okay. It's something that some people, especially that are new, might be wondering to themselves is something like this. Now, this fellow's talking about these thrills, and they seem so very real to me, and yet he says they create self-hypnosis. I don't understand what this self-hypnosis is that he's talking about, because I like my thrills.
All right, let's take the thrill of revenge. How many of you ever in your life have taken revenge on another human being? How many of you today took mental revenge on another human being? How about this week? Last month? Last year? We got you all. Didn't you notice the thrill you got when you took revenge, when you told him off, either mentally or because he's your, we get revenge only when we're sure we don't get hurt in return, yeah? You can tell the employee off, but you don't tell the big boss off or he'll fire you. See? Again, what cowards we are. How cruel we are. We'll attack anyone who can attack us back, right? And if any of you are doing this, you're disqualifying yourself for learning the truth. You better get on to what's going through your mind. All right, you notice the thrill that you get at the moment you get any kind of revenge on someone, or your enemy falls down and hurts himself, and you feel the thrill He had it coming to him, that sort of thing. Don't you know what a devil you are when you say, I'm glad that happened to him? You're getting your happiness out of the misery of another person. I don't care, that person, he may even be a devil, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about that thrill that you love because someone else got hurt, maybe at your hands. You take a look at that thrill and you'll see that it's shaking you apart. And the reason you love it is because the distraction, the pleasure of revenge is a mighty wall, a mighty distraction, which prevents you from seeing the falseness of it, because you're simply, look, I'm trying to illustrate it physically as well, you're immersed in the polluted water of your own feeling of revenge. You're in a state of hypnosis. I got that on him, see? For maybe 5 seconds, all your problems, all your pains, all your hatreds, all your fears are blotted out by the marvelous distraction of this thrill of getting something on someone. He was mean to me for 30 years, the wife is saying, but I finally got him down at the divorce court. Revenge is sweet. Or however the way you do it. Just a minute, please. Try to see what it means to have a false thrill. And if you see through it and die to it, give them up. That empty space will then be replaced by an authentic thrill. And I use that word deliberately because we still have to use words. An authentic thrill that is not self-centered, that doesn't refer back to you at all, but the thrill of knowing that you have died to something false in you, and therefore that brick has fallen off. You can actually feel, psychically speaking, you understand, actually feel the lightness of your walk through life when just one brick really, really, really falls off your back. And when you feel that lightness of your life, that you don't have to be mad, you don't have to be scared, when you get that one brick off your back, that is right encouragement, a right thrill, a cosmic thrill, which will want you to get the next brick off your back, and the next one, and the next one. And this is what we're doing here in this class, and what our life is all about, to see through the unnecessary bricks that society, with our consent, has put on our back. We're no longer consenting to it. No, absolutely not. Is there anyone in this room who refuses to ever go back to your former life? You're not going back. If they gave you all the gold in the world, what good's that going to do? We're talking, look, we're not talking about time here. We're talking about eternity. And if you don't understand what I am talking about, you will eventually. Did you have your hand up, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Please.
In relation to this business of thrills, the more insane a person finds himself, the more insane the situation a person finds himself in as a result of his habitual past actions, to the degree of that insanity, that's a sign of the depth of his false self, the hold it has on him. For instance, for a specific example, you have economic problems in your life. If they're incredibly deep and involved, your false personality loves it because it constantly causes agitation, and gives that personality something to glow.
That's true. There's many things we could add to that, including the law of accident, which we won't go into now. But poverty-stricken people get a nice identity out of that. If I don't have any money, you owe me some money, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to cause trouble. Right? Please.
For an example, how can I walk around not burned out by the shock of my contradiction?
Everything you've learned about here will help you to do that. That's such a broad question, I give it a broad answer. We'll take another 10 or 12 minutes and then stop. Jim, please.
Okay. Any authentic thrill or emotion is not related to any outside event or condition or situation. Is that right?
Quite right. Because it's not depending on them. What are you depending on to make you feel good? The security of your employment? The fact that your husband is faithful to you? Your wife is? What are you depending upon to make you feel secure? How would you feel if it was taken away? You're depending upon something outside of you. You're getting a false thrill out of something outside of you, which means you're at the mercy. You're at the mercy of that person or of that event, aren't you? That's no way to live. You're going to live in tension. And if you get fired, you're going to get mad and bitter. And you're going to get harder. That's no way to live. I will tell you, I better add to some of you, so maybe you don't understand this. Because human beings are insane, because the world is mad, pretending it's sane, with its peace organizations and its churches and its so-called religions and its so-called moral codes. It also has a false economic system based in competition, etc. And I don't want to say too much about this, or your mind will go in the wrong direction. I know that. I'm saying that because man is insane, he also has an insane economic system. If you don't think so, just look at how the government, in attempting to straighten out a situation, only makes it worse, right? We'll go into that sometime in full depth. And if any of you have a feeling of hopelessness, of weakness, a feeling that you can't comprehend these things, I will tell you that you are being hoaxed. And I will also tell you that you are consenting to the hoax, because you know that you're going to have to make a very, very special exertion to snap out of the hypnosis that you're in. And because we're all lazy, we're all afraid of the unknown ahead, we want to live in our own familiar, miserable ways, because we love this, we want to just stay as we are. Therefore, the fact that there is a way out may not mean anything to you unless you're very, very weary of living the way you have. If you value your agitation more than you value exploration, you'll never find the way out. So you're going to have to make a choice tonight. Every one of you in this room, without exception, new or old, will have to make a choice. Those of you who have already made the choice for truth, or at least you believe you have, you can reaffirm your choice to not value this sick world or your own sickness, but to study, to listen, to be receptive, to be willing to take it. We haven't had our class poem in a long time. Joan, out loud, give the class poem to everybody.
If you can take it, you will make it.
Say it the reverse way, Chuck.
If you can't take it, you won't make it.
If you can take it, you will make it. If you don't want to take it, you'll walk out of here and you'll go right back to your misery. Don't miss the opportunity you've had here tonight, not for my sake. I'm not responsible for you. You have nothing to give me. But from practical thought, you're down at the office. You have to figure out that ledger there. You're at home. You have to figure out the best way to scrub the floor. Or driving a car, you have to figure out the shortest way to get to where you want to go. You're using practical thought, right? Instead of neurotic thought, which is to hating this man or hoping that you can get something on that person or them. So your life alternates quite naturally and easily and freely between practical thought and simply being aware of what is going on inside of you and outside there, including that person. You become a marvelous expert in human nature, far beyond ordinary psychology. You'll be able to read a person's mind, in a sense. You'll be able to read what they're thinking by the expression on their face, or if they have no expression, you know that's a frozen expression to hide something. You'll know by the way they walk, by what they say, by what they do, and this will keep you free of them. They won't be able to fool you. They won't be able to trap you. They won't be able to hurt you. There's no one there to hurt. You get hurt because there presently is someone there to get hurt. Get rid of that person, that little sensitive egotist, that little touchy, the slightest thing. Don't you talk to me that way. Let the mad world live mad. You and I have much better things to do with our life while we're still here on earth. And you've heard about some of them tonight. All right, good night.
Good night.